I missed my son's wedding. Not because I was sick, not because I wasn't invited, not because we were estranged or fighting or living on opposite sides of the world. I missed it because nobody told me it was happening. My son, the boy I carried for 9 months, the child I nursed through fever and heartbreak, the man I spent 28 years loving with every fiber of my being, got married 3 weeks ago, and I found out yesterday, on Facebook, from a photo his new wife posted with the caption, "Best day of my life with my forever family." There I was, standing in my kitchen with a coffee cup in my hand, scrolling through my phone like any other Thursday morning, when I saw my son in a navy suit, his arm around a woman in white, standing under an arch of golden flowers I didn't help choose. Surrounded by faces I recognized, his father, his sister, his grandmother, his childhood friends, all smiling like they were part of something beautiful. Something I wasn't invited to. My name is Jane. I'm 53 years old. I've been a mother longer than I've been anything else. And 3 weeks ago, on what should have been one of the most important days of my life, I was at home, alone, wondering why my son hadn't returned my calls. This is the story of how I discovered my family had erased me, how a mother's love became inconvenient, and how the people you die for can sometimes be the ones who kill you slowly, one exclusion at a time. Let me take you back to the beginning, to 6 months ago, to the day I started noticing the silence. Before I continue, I need to say something that's weighing on my heart. I see the numbers. Thousands of you are watching this right now, and most of you will leave without subscribing. You'll hear about a mother being erased from her son's life, and you'll scroll to the next video like it never happened. Is that who we are? People who witness a mother's heartbreak and do nothing. If you believe that a mother's love is sacred, that no woman should be made invisible by the people she sacrificed everything for, then prove it. Hit that subscribe button right now and comment where you're watching from. Don't let my story be just another sad tale you forget by tomorrow. Stand with me, because if this could happen to me, it could happen to anyone. 6 months before the wedding I didn't know about, my son Daniel stopped answering my calls. Not dramatically, not with an argument or a slammed door or harsh words that you can point to and say, "That's when it broke." It was quieter than that, more insidious. It started with delayed responses. A text I'd send at breakfast wouldn't get answered until dinner. Then the next day. Then 3 days later with a brief "sorry, been swamped at work." Daniel was an architect at a firm downtown. 28 years old, sharp as a tack, with his father's analytical mind, and I'd always thought my sensitive heart. We used to talk 3-4 times a week, not because I was overbearing, but because we genuinely enjoyed each other's company. He'd tell me about his projects, the buildings he was designing. I'd tell him about my book club, the garden I was planting, the neighborhood gossip he pretended not to care about but always asked follow-up questions. We were close, or so I thought. The first time I really noticed something was wrong was in March. I called him on a Wednesday evening, our usual time, and it went straight to voicemail. I didn't think much of it. Called again Thursday. Voicemail. Friday. Voicemail. By Saturday, I was worried enough to text his sister, Michelle. "Have you heard from your brother? I can't seem to reach him." Her response came 2 hours later. "He's fine, Mom, just busy with a big project." Something about that text felt off. Too casual, too dismissive. Michelle and I had always been close, too. After their father Robert and I divorced 8 years ago, I'd worked hard to maintain relationships with both my children. Sunday dinners, holiday traditions. I showed up to Michelle's art exhibitions and Daniel's work presentations. I babysat Michelle's daughter Emma every Tuesday. I was present. Or I tried to be. Daniel finally called me back on Sunday, 5 days after my first attempt. "Hey, Mom, sorry it's been crazy at work." His voice sounded distant, like he was reading from a script. "That's okay, honey. I was just worried. 5 days is a long time for you." "Yeah, I know. Things are just hectic right now." "Anything you want to talk about?" "Not really, just work stuff. Deadlines, you know." We talked for maybe 10 minutes. The conversation felt forced, like he was completing a chore. When we hung up, I sat in my living room with a strange, hollow feeling in my chest. That's when the silence really began. I first heard about Vanessa in April. Not from Daniel. From my ex-husband Robert's mother, Patricia, who I'd somehow remained close to despite the divorce. We met for lunch at our usual spot, a little Italian restaurant where the owner knew us by name. "So," Patricia said, twirling pasta on her fork, "have you met Daniel's girlfriend yet?" The bite of salad I'd just taken turned to ash in my mouth. "Girlfriend." Patricia's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Her eyes widened slightly. Oh, Jane, I assumed you knew." "Knew what?" She set down her fork carefully, the way you might set down something fragile that could shatter. "Daniel's been seeing someone, Vanessa. Robert mentioned it a few weeks ago. He said they were getting serious." The restaurant noise, clinking silverware, low conversations, Italian music from the speakers, all seemed to fade into white static. "How serious?" Patricia reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Her skin was papery and warm. "I don't know the details, honey, but Robert seemed to think it was significant." I drove home in a daze. Daniel had a serious girlfriend, serious enough that his father knew, his grandmother knew, and he hadn't told me. That evening I called him. It went to voicemail. I left a message, keeping my voice light, casual. "Hi, sweetheart, just calling to catch up. Give me a ring when you have a chance. Love you." He texted back 3 hours later. "Can't talk tonight. We'll call you this weekend." He didn't. I waited. Saturday passed. Sunday passed. By Monday, the hurt had curdled into something sharper. I called Michelle. "Honey, did you know Daniel has a girlfriend?" A pause, too long. "Yeah, Mom, Vanessa, she's nice." "You've met her?" "A few times, at family dinners." Family dinners. The words hit like a physical blow. "What family dinners?" Another pause. "Just, Dad hosts them sometimes at his place." Robert's place. The house he shared with his new wife, Cynthia. The woman he'd left me for after 23 years of marriage. "How long has this been going on?" "Mom." "How long, Michelle?" "A few months, maybe since January." January? It was now April. For 4 months, my children had been gathering at their father's house with his new wife, and nobody had told me. For 4 months, my son had been bringing his serious girlfriend to meet the family, just not me. Why didn't anyone tell me? Michelle sighed, that particular exhale that meant she was about to say something she didn't want to say. Dad thought it would be easier this way, less complicated. Less complicated for who? For everyone, Mom. You know how you get about Dad and Cynthia. How I get? You know what I mean. It's awkward, okay? Having everyone together. So Dad thought it would be better to keep things separate. Separate, the word echoed in my head for days. I'd been separated, not by my choice, not through any action of my own, but quietly, systematically, I'd been separated from my own children's lives. I wish I could say I took the high road, that I respected boundaries and waited patiently for my son to bring his girlfriend around when he was ready. But I didn't. Instead, I did what any mother in 2026 would do. I found her on social media. Vanessa Hartley, 26 years old, marketing director at a tech startup. Blonde, beautiful, with one of those effortlessly curated Instagram feeds full of brunch photos and sunset shots and inspirational quotes in elegant fonts. I scrolled back through months of photos. There was Daniel in March, his arm around her at what looked like a company party. Daniel in February, both of them bundled up in scarves at some winter festival. Daniel in January, kissing her cheek at what the caption identified as New Year's with the Ericks. The Ericks, his father's family, his father's new family. The photos showed dinners, celebrations, casual weekends. In several of them, I could see other familiar faces. Michelle and her husband Tom, little Emma, Robert and Cynthia, even Patricia, my ex-mother-in-law, smiling in the background of a birthday celebration. They'd built a whole life, a whole family structure, without me. I kept scrolling. my chest growing tighter with each image, until I found one that made my hands shake so badly I almost dropped my phone. It was from 3 weeks ago. Vanessa and Daniel, both dressed up, standing in what looked like a jewelry store. The caption read, "He said yes when I said I needed to look at engagement rings, for a friend smirking ring hash so close can't wait." Engagement rings. My son was about to get engaged, and I didn't even know his girlfriend's name. I called Daniel that night. Not a text, not a voicemail. I called 7 times in a row until he finally picked up. "Mom, what's wrong? Are you okay?" "Am I okay? Daniel, are you engaged?" Silence. "Daniel, how did you?" "Social media. Your girlfriend's Instagram. The one I had to find myself because apparently I'm the last person on earth who's supposed to know about your life." "Mom, are you engaged?" Another silence. Then quietly, "Not yet, but soon. I'm planning to propose next month." The confirmation shouldn't have hurt worse than the suspicion, but it did. It shattered something I didn't even know was still whole. Next month? And were you planning to tell me? Or was I going to find out about that on Facebook too? It's not like that. Then what is it like, Daniel? Explain it to me. Explain why your sister has met her. Why your father has met her. Why your grandmother has met her. Why she's been coming to family dinners for months and I, your mother, have never even heard her name. Because it's easier this way. Those words, the same ones Michelle had used. Easier for who? For everyone, for her, for the family. I'm your family. You know what I mean. The situation with you and Dad is tense, and Vanessa doesn't need to be in the middle of that. Neither do I. Tense. Daniel, your father left me. He had an affair and walked out on 23 years of marriage. I'm not the one who made things tense. But you're the one who can't let it go. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Can't let it go. Your father destroyed our family. No, Mom, you did, by holding on to the anger. By making every holiday, every birthday, every family event about your hurt feelings. Do you know how exhausting that is? How hard it is to love both of you and watch you punish him, punish all of us, because you can't move on. Each word was a knife, clean, precise, lethal. I never punished you. You didn't have to, you just made everything about you, your pain, your betrayal, your suffering. And we all had to tiptoe around it, manage your feelings, make sure Mom was okay. Well, I'm tired, Mom. I'm tired of being responsible for your emotional well-being. I'm tired of feeling guilty for having a relationship with Dad. I'm tired of managing your hurt. So your solution is to cut me out. My solution is to build a life that doesn't revolve around your divorce. Vanessa is about to become my wife, and I need to know that she can be around my family without drama, without tension, without having to navigate your feelings about Dad and Cynthia. I would never. You already do, Mom, every time. Every single time we're all together, you make it clear how betrayed you feel, how hurt you are, how wrong it all is, and I can't bring my future wife into that. Then why not just meet separately? Why not introduce us without your father there? Because that's not the family I want to build. I want one family, not divided loyalties, not separate celebrations. One family that can be in the same room together. And if you can't do that, if you can't put aside your anger for a few hours for my sake, then maybe it's better this way. Better that I'm excluded from your life. Better that we keep things simple until you can handle it. The call ended shortly after that. I don't even remember who hung up first. I sat in my dark living room for hours, his words replaying in my mind like a terrible song I couldn't escape. You're the one who can't let it go. You made everything about you. I'm tired of managing your hurt. Was it true? Had I been so consumed by my own pain that I'd pushed my children away? Had my inability to forgive Robert cost me my relationship with Daniel? Or was this gaslighting of the highest order, my son rewriting history to justify excluding me from his life? I didn't know anymore. The certainty I'd always felt about my role as a mother, about my relationship with my children, had dissolved into doubt and confusion. The weeks that followed were a special kind of torture. I waited for Daniel to call back, to apologize, to say he'd overreacted, to invite me to meet Vanessa to be part of his life again. He didn't. Instead, the silence deepened. Calls went unanswered. Texts were met with brief, one-word responses days later. It was like watching someone you love disappear slowly, pixel by pixel, until there's nothing left but the ghost of who they used to be. Michelle tried to be a buffer at first. She'd call me, update me on Daniel in vague terms. He's doing fine, work is busy, he's happy. But even those calls became less frequent, more strained. Then, in late June, she stopped by my house, unannounced, with that look on her face that told me something bad was coming. "Mom, can we talk?" We sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd made them breakfast for 18 years, where Daniel had done his homework at the counter, where Michelle had cried about her first breakup while I made hot chocolate. "Daniel's getting married," she said without preamble. My heart, which had never fully recovered from our last conversation, cracked a little deeper. "When?" "August 15th. 6 weeks away." "Did he propose?" "Last weekend, at the lake house. It was beautiful, Mom, really beautiful." I waited for the rest, for the wedding details, for my role in it. Michelle looked down at her hands. "The wedding is going to be small, very small, just immediate family and close friends." "I'm immediate family." "I know, but—" She took a breath. "But Vanessa's family is traditional, conservative. They don't really understand complicated family dynamics. And Daniel doesn't want any tension on his wedding day. He wants everyone to be comfortable, to be happy, without worrying about managing different people's feelings." The room tilted slightly. "Are you telling me I'm not invited to my son's wedding?" "He hasn't sent out invitations yet. He's still finalizing the guest list. But he asked me to talk to you first, to explain the situation." "There's nothing to explain, Michelle. Either I'm invited to my son's wedding or I'm not." "It's not that simple." "It is exactly that simple." She reached for my hand. I pulled away. "Mom, please, try to understand. This is his day, his and Vanessa's. And he needs to know that it's going to be peaceful, that there won't be any drama or tension or uncomfortable moments. If you could show him that you're okay with Dad and Cynthia, that you can be in the same room without making it weird, then maybe." "Making it weird? Your father cheated on me, Michelle. He broke our marriage vows, destroyed our family, and moved his mistress into a house 10 minutes away. And I'm the one making it weird by having feelings about that. It's been 8 years, Mom. 8 years, as if time alone healed betrayal, as if there was a statute of limitations on hurt. So because I haven't performed forgiveness on your timeline, I don't get to see my son get married." "That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying?" She stood up, her own frustration finally breaking through. "I'm saying that maybe Daniel has a point. Maybe you do hold on to things too tightly. Maybe you do make everything about your pain. I've spent 8 years trying to keep everyone happy, trying to balance you and Dad, trying to make sure nobody gets hurt. And I'm exhausted, Mom. We're all exhausted." "So exclude me. That's easier, right? Just cut out the problem." "You're not the problem. Your inability to move forward is." She left shortly after that. I stood at my kitchen window, watching her car pull away, and felt the full weight of my new reality settle over me like a shroud. I was going to be excluded from my son's wedding, not because I'd done anything wrong, not because I'd been a bad mother, but because my pain was inconvenient, because my inability to pretend everything was fine made other people uncomfortable. Because I was the problem they could solve by simply erasing me. The next 6 weeks were the longest of my life. I kept waiting for Daniel to call, to change his mind, to say that of course I was invited, that it had all been a misunderstanding, that he couldn't possibly get married without his mother there. The call never came. Instead, I watched from the sidelines as my son's wedding approached. Social media became a form of self-torture. Vanessa posted photos of dress shopping with her bridesmaids. Daniel posted about his bachelor party. Michelle posted a picture of her bridesmaid dress with the caption, "Can't wait to celebrate these two." I wasn't mentioned. I wasn't tagged. I didn't exist. I tried to distract myself. I threw myself into work, into my garden, into anything that would keep my mind from spiraling into the dark place where a mother imagines her son's wedding day and knows she won't be there. Friends asked about the wedding. "You must be so excited," they'd say. "August 15th, right? Are you wearing the mother of the groom dress you showed us?" I learned to lie. "Oh, we're still finalizing some details." Or, "It's a very small ceremony." Or simply, "It's complicated." The truth was too humiliating to speak out loud. My son doesn't want me at his wedding. A week before the 15th, I broke down and called Daniel one last time. "Please," I said when he finally answered. "Please don't do this. I'm your mother. I carried you, I raised you, I loved you every single day of your life. Don't take this away from me." "Mom, I'll sit in the back. I won't talk to your father. I won't cause any problems. I just need to be there, please." The silence on the other end was devastating. "I'm sorry," he said finally, "but the decision is made. The guest list is set. I need you to respect that." "How can you do this to me?" "Mom, this isn't about you. This is about me and Vanessa starting our life together in a way that feels right for us. I'm sorry you're hurt. I really am. But I can't make my wedding day about managing your feelings." "I'm not asking you to manage my feelings. I'm asking you to include your mother. And I'm asking you to respect my decision. I have to go, Mom. I hope someday you'll understand." He hung up. I never called again. August 15th was a Saturday. I woke up at 6 in the morning, even though I had nowhere to be. Old habits. On my children's important days, I always woke early, too excited or nervous or full of maternal pride to sleep. I made coffee, sat in my kitchen, watched the sunrise through the window. Somewhere across town, my son was waking up too, getting ready for the most important day of his life. Nervous, excited, surrounded by the people who loved him. People who weren't me. I wondered what he was feeling, if he thought about me at all. If there was a moment, maybe while he was buttoning his shirt or adjusting his tie, when he felt the absence. When he realized his mother wasn't there and felt the wrongness of it. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he was so happy, so focused on Vanessa and their future, that he didn't notice the missing piece. That thought hurt worst of all. The hours crawled by. I knew the wedding was at 3 o'clock. Michelle had mentioned it weeks ago before the final rift. A garden ceremony at some estate venue outside the city. 60 guests. Vanessa's family, Daniel's friends, his father and stepmother, his sister and her family. Everyone except me. At 2:30, I did something I'm not proud of. I got in my car and drove to the venue. I didn't plan to crash the wedding. I wasn't that desperate, but I needed to be close, to be in proximity to this moment, even if I couldn't be part of it. I parked on a side road about half a mile away. Through the trees, I could see the white tent set up in the garden. I could hear music drifting on the wind, laughter, celebration. At exactly 3 o'clock, I saw the ceremony begin from a distance. Just shapes, really. Figures in formal wear gathering under an arch. The bride in white, the groom in navy. My son. I sat in my car and cried. Not delicate tears that could be wiped away. Ugly, body-shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep and primal. The kind of grief that has no bottom. I cried for the little boy who used to hold my hand everywhere we went. For the teenager who still kissed me goodnight. For the young man who used to call me just to hear my voice. I cried for the relationship we'd lost. For the distance I hadn't seen coming. For the ways I'd apparently failed him without knowing it. And I cried for myself. For the mother who'd been erased. For the woman whose love hadn't been enough to keep her in her son's life. I stayed there until the ceremony ended. Until I saw the guests move toward the tent for the reception. Until the sun started to set and the fairy lights came on and the party continued without me. Then I drove home. I didn't eat, didn't turn on the lights, just sat in my dark living room, my phone in my hand, waiting for, what? A call, a text, an apology. Nothing came. The silence was absolute. I found out about the wedding the next day. Actually, that's not quite true. I already knew about the wedding. What I found out was that it had happened, and what it had looked like, and who had been there to witness it. I'd managed to avoid social media on Saturday. It felt like the least I could do for my own sanity, not torture myself with photos of the event I'd been excluded from. But Sunday morning, my resolve broke. I opened Facebook while drinking my coffee, and there it was. The first post I saw was from Vanessa, a professional photo of her and Daniel at the altar, kissing, with the caption, "Best day of my life with my forever family, Red 8/15/26. My forever family. I scrolled through the photos she'd posted, dozens of them, the ceremony, the reception, the cake cutting, the first dance, and in the backgrounds and the guest shots and the candid moments, I saw all the familiar faces. Robert looking proud and tearful, Cynthia beside him, elegant in lavender, Michelle in her bridesmaid dress, holding Emma who was adorable in a flower girl outfit, Patricia, my ex-mother-in-law, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief, Daniel's childhood friends, his college roommates, his work colleagues. An entire community gathered to celebrate my son, a community I'd been deliberately excluded from. I kept scrolling, each image a fresh wound, until I found the one that broke me completely. It was a photo from the reception, Daniel at the microphone, clearly giving a speech, and the caption on the post from one of his friends read, "When the groom thanks his parents for always believing in him, read best wedding speech." His parents. Plural. I clicked on the friend's profile, desperately searching for more context, and found a video. A full video of Daniel's speech. I should have stopped, should have closed the app, should have protected myself. I didn't. I pressed play. The video quality was shaky, clearly filmed on a phone, but I could see Daniel clearly. Handsome in his suit, happy, so unbearably happy. "I want to thank a few people," he was saying, his arm around Vanessa. "First, my beautiful wife, can I say that now? My wife, for choosing me, for seeing past my terrible dad jokes and my obsession with architecture documentaries and loving me anyway." Laughter from the crowd. "I want to thank my sister Michelle for being the best sister, the best friend, and for only embarrassing me a little bit in her maid of honor speech." More laughter, Michelle's voice in the background. "You're welcome." "I want to thank my dad." His voice caught slightly. "Dad, you've always been my hero. You taught me what it means to work hard, to have integrity, to be a good man. Thank you for showing me how to love, how to commit, how to build a life with someone. I wouldn't be standing here today without your example." Robert, in the video, was crying openly. Cynthia had her hand on his back. "And Cynthia, thank you for loving my dad and for welcoming me into your life with such grace. You've shown me that family isn't just about blood. It's about showing up, about being present, about choosing to love." I felt nauseous. Daniel continued, "I want to thank my grandmother Patricia for her wisdom and her unconditional support, and Emma, the world's cutest flower girl, and to all of you here today, thank you for being part of our forever family." The video ended with applause and cheers. I watched it 3 more times, searching for any mention of me, any acknowledgement of the woman who'd given him life, who'd sacrificed her career to raise him, who'd loved him before he was even born. Nothing. I didn't exist. In the narrative of Daniel's life, in the story he told on his wedding day, I had been erased completely. I didn't leave my house for 3 days. Didn't answer calls, didn't respond to texts, didn't eat much beyond toast and coffee. I just sat in the silence and tried to understand how I'd lost my son. Friends eventually started showing up, knocking on my door, leaving casseroles and concerned notes, but I couldn't face them, couldn't face their pity or their questions or their well-meaning advice. On Wednesday, Michelle came by. She let herself in with the key I'd given her years ago and found me in my bedroom, still in my pajamas, staring at the ceiling. "Mom." I didn't respond. She sat on the edge of the bed. "I know you're hurting." Do you? Yes, and I'm sorry. I really am. But Mom, you have to understand. I don't have to understand anything. My son got married and didn't invite me. His own mother. There's nothing to understand except that I've been erased from his life. That's not true. Isn't it? I watched his speech, Michelle. I saw who he thanked. Your father. Cynthia, you, his grandmother, everyone except me. It's like I never existed. Michelle was quiet for a long moment. Then, he's angry with you, Mom. He has been for a while. Angry about what? What did I do that was so terrible I deserve this? You made him choose between you and Dad. You didn't do it explicitly, but you did it with every comment, every sigh, every uncomfortable moment when we were all together. You made it clear that we couldn't have both of you in our lives without conflict, so he chose the easier path. He chose his father. He chose peace, and I don't blame him. The words hung between us like a wall. Are you saying you agree with this, with excluding me? Michelle stood up, moved to the window. I'm saying I understand it. You don't know what it's been like, Mom, being caught in the middle, trying to make everyone happy, listening to you talk about Dad like he's a monster, listening to Dad talk about how impossible you are, trying to coordinate holidays so you're never in the same room. It's exhausting. So I'm impossible now. Sometimes, yes. You hold grudges, Mom. You can't let things go. Dad made a mistake, a terrible, hurtful mistake, but it was 8 years ago. At some point, you have to move forward. At some point, the anger has to end. Easy for you to say. He didn't betray you. No, but I lost my family because of it. My whole childhood was divided into before and after. And in the after, I've spent 8 years managing both of you, making sure Mom's okay, making sure Dad's okay. Never fully relaxed because I'm always worried about who I'm hurting by choosing to spend time with the other one. She turned to face me. Daniel was tired of that, tired of the guilt, tired of the divided loyalties, and Vanessa gave him a chance at a fresh start. A family that isn't broken, that isn't full of resentment and old wounds. Can you really blame him for wanting that? Yes, I can, because I'm his mother and he threw me away like I was nothing. You weren't nothing, Mom, you were just too much, too angry, too hurt, too stuck in the past, and he needed to move forward. She left shortly after that, and I was alone again with the truth of what she'd said. Was I too much, too angry, too stuck? Or was this just another way of making my pain my fault, of turning my justified hurt into a character flaw I needed to fix? I still don't know the answer. It's been 2 months since Daniel's wedding. He hasn't called, hasn't texted, hasn't acknowledged my existence except for one brief message 3 weeks ago. Mom, I think we need some space. I'll reach out when I'm ready. Space, the word people use when they mean, I'm done with you but don't want to say it directly. I've had a lot of time to think, to replay every conversation, every argument, every moment that led to this. And I've come to understand a few things. First, I was angry. Michelle was right about that. For 8 years, I carried the weight of Robert's betrayal like stones in my pockets, and I never fully let it go. Every family gathering, every forced interaction, I wore my hurt like armor, and it was heavy. For me, yes, but also for my children. Second, I made them responsible for my healing. Without meaning to, without realizing it, I looked to Daniel and Michelle to validate my pain, to take my side, to choose me over their father in ways that weren't fair to ask of them. Third, I didn't see the cost. I didn't notice how exhausted they were, how much emotional labor they were doing to manage my feelings and their father's, how much they longed for a family that wasn't defined by old wounds. But here's what else I've come to understand. None of that justifies what was done to me. I was angry, yes, but I was also present. I showed up to every event I was invited to. I loved my children fiercely. I never once told them they couldn't have a relationship with their father. I swallowed my pain more times than I can count to make things easier for them. And my reward was being erased from the most important day of my son's life. That's not a consequence I deserved. That's not a reasonable response to a mother's imperfect healing. That's cruelty. and I'm done pretending it's anything else. Last week, I made a decision. I wrote Daniel a letter, a real letter on paper in my own handwriting, not an email or a text that could be deleted or ignored with the tap of a finger. I told him everything, the pain of being excluded, the devastation of watching his wedding from a distance, the hurt of being erased from his speech, from his life, from the narrative of who he is and where he came from. But I also told him the truth I'd been avoiding. I told him that yes, I had been angry, that I had held onto the hurt longer than I should have, that I had, without meaning to, made my children carry the weight of my broken marriage. I apologized for that. But I also told him that his solution, erasing me, excluding me, pretending I didn't exist, was not the answer to my imperfection, that mothers are human, that we hurt and heal on our own timelines, that unconditional love means loving someone even when they're still figuring things out. I told him I would always love him, but I also told him something I never thought I'd say to my child. I was done waiting for him to decide I was worthy of his life. I mailed the letter on a Tuesday, and then I did something I should have done months ago. I started building a new life. It started small. I joined a grief support group at the community center, not for widows, but for people experiencing ambiguous loss, the grief of losing someone who's still alive, parents whose adult children had cut them off, siblings estranged from family, people whose loved ones had dementia and were slipping away while still breathing. The first meeting, I sat in a circle with 7 other people and listened to their stories. A father whose daughter hadn't spoken to him in 5 years over a political disagreement. A mother whose son's wife had poisoned their relationship with lies. A woman whose entire family had sided with her abusive ex-husband, leaving her completely alone. When it was my turn to share, I broke down before I even finished explaining what had happened. I missed my son's wedding, I managed to say through tears, and I don't know how to forgive that. I don't know how to move forward. A woman named Carol, maybe 60, with kind eyes and silver hair, reached over and squeezed my hand. You move forward by accepting that some people, even people we birthed, even people we raised, are not capable of loving us the way we deserve. And then you go find the people who are. Those words stayed with me. After the meeting, Carol invited me for coffee. We talked for 3 hours. She told me about her own son, who'd moved across the country 15 years ago and gradually stopped calling, stopped visiting, until she became nothing more than a Christmas card recipient. I waited for him for 10 years, she said. Waited for him to come back, to remember me, to realize what he'd lost. And then one day, I realized I was wasting the life I had left waiting for someone who'd already made their choice. What did you do? She smiled. I went to Italy, alone. I'd always wanted to go, but my husband hated traveling and my son was always too busy. So I said, fuck it, excuse my language, and I booked a ticket. Spent a month in Tuscany. Met the most amazing group of women at my cooking class. We're still friends. We travel together twice a year now. Just like that, you just let go. Not just like that, no. It took time, therapy, a lot of crying. But eventually, yes, I let go of the son who didn't want me in his life, and I made room for people who did. Best decision I ever made. Something shifted in me that day. A small crack in the foundation of my grief that let in a sliver of light. Maybe I didn't have to keep waiting. Maybe I could build something new. Over the next few weeks, I started saying yes. Yes to the book club I'd been invited to, but always declined because I was too busy, waiting for Daniel to call. Yes to the community garden project that needed volunteers. Yes to the art class at the senior center. I'm only 53, but they welcomed anyone over 40. Yes to coffee with acquaintances who wanted to become friends. I started filling my calendar with things that had nothing to do with my children, or my ex-husband, or the family that had left me behind. And something strange happened. I started to feel lighter. At the community garden, I met a woman named Ruth who was 72 and fiercer than anyone I'd ever known. She'd been widowed young, raised 4 kids alone, and now spent her retirement growing vegetables for the food bank and taking pottery classes. "Life's too short to spend it with people who don't appreciate you," she told me while we weeded the tomato beds. "Even if those people came out of your own body." In my art class, I met James, a recently retired teacher whose wife had passed away 2 years earlier. He was learning to paint because she'd always wanted him to, and he was honoring her memory by finally trying. "Grief is a strange companion," he said one evening while we cleaned our brushes. "It never fully leaves, but you can choose what else you invite in alongside it. Joy, purpose, new connections. The grief doesn't have to be the only thing." In my book club, I met Linda and Margaret, 2 sisters in their 60s who'd both been through difficult divorces and had rebuilt their lives together, traveling and starting a small catering business. "Family is what you make it," Linda said during one of our meetings. "Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, or love, or presence. Sometimes the family you choose is more real than the family you were born into." These people, these relative strangers, started to become something more. They called when I was quiet too long. They invited me to dinners and movies and impromptu adventures. They saw me, not as someone's mother or someone's ex-wife, just as Jane, and they liked her. I started to remember who I was before I became defined by the roles other people needed me to fill. 3 months after the wedding, Michelle called. "Mom, can we talk?" I almost said no. Almost told her I was done being the one who had to process everyone else's feelings while mine were dismissed. But old habits die hard. "I'm listening." "It's about Daniel." My heart, which I'd been carefully rebuilding, cracked slightly at his name. "What about him?" "He and Vanessa are struggling. The marriage isn't. It's not going well." Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, to say good, or serves him right, or any of the petty hurt things that bubbled up. But mostly, I just felt sad. "I'm sorry to hear that. He's been asking about you." "Has he?" "Mom." "Michelle, I sent him a letter 3 months ago. A long, honest letter about everything I was feeling. He never responded, never acknowledged it, never reached out. So forgive me if I don't drop everything because he's suddenly asking about me." He read the letter. He's been thinking about it, about everything. And I think he regrets it. The wedding, excluding you, he won't say it directly, but I can tell. He's been withdrawn, sad, and things with Vanessa are tense because her family is. They're very controlling, Mom, very critical. And I think he's starting to realize that the perfect family he thought he was getting isn't what he expected. That's unfortunate, but it's not my problem to solve. Mom. No, Michelle, for once just listen to me. I spent 28 years being Daniel's mother, being present, being supportive, being there for every crisis and celebration. And when I was going through the hardest thing I've ever experienced, being excluded from his wedding, he wasn't there for me. He made a choice, and choices have consequences. You're really going to turn your back on your own son. The accusation stung, as it was meant to. I'm not turning my back on him. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. He needs you, Mom. He didn't need me 3 months ago. He'll survive. I hung up before she could say anything else. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. But underneath the anxiety, there was something else. Strength. For the first time in years, I'd set a boundary with my children, and the world hadn't ended. A week after Michelle's call, Daniel showed up at my house. I almost didn't answer the door. I saw his car through the window, saw him walking up the path, and every instinct told me to hide. But I'm not a coward, so I opened the door. He looked terrible, thinner than I remembered, dark circles under his eyes, the glow of newlywed happiness completely extinguished. Hi, Mom. Daniel. Can I come in? I wanted to say no, wanted to make him feel even a fraction of the rejection I'd felt, but I stepped aside and let him enter. We sat in the living room, the same room where I'd spent so many nights wondering what I'd done wrong, the same room where I'd cried myself sick after his wedding. I read your letter, he said finally. I know, Michelle told me. I'm sorry I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. And now you do. He looked down at his hands. No, not really, but I needed to see you, to talk to you. Why now? What changed? He was quiet for a long moment. Everything. Nothing, I don't know. The wedding was supposed to be this perfect, fresh start. This new chapter where everything was simple and uncomplicated. And it's not. It's actually harder than before. Marriage is hard. It's not just the marriage, it's... Vanessa's family is very involved, very opinionated about how we should live, where we should go, what we should do. Her mother calls 3 times a day. Her father has opinions about everything from my job to our furniture. And I realized that I didn't escape a complicated family situation. I just traded one for another. So you came here, because your new family is disappointing you. The words came out harsher than I intended, but not harsher than I felt. He flinched. No, I came here because I realized I made a mistake, a huge, terrible mistake, and I don't know how to fix it. What mistake? Cutting you out, excluding you from the wedding, believing that the problem was you instead of realizing that the problem was me expecting perfection from people who are human. Tears started sliding down his cheeks. My son, who rarely cried, who held everything inside, was breaking down in my living room. I hurt you. I know I did. And I told myself it was justified because you were angry and stuck and making things difficult. But the truth is, Mom, you were just dealing with your own pain the best way you knew how, and I punished you for not healing on my timeline. I wanted to comfort him. Every maternal instinct screamed at me to pull him into my arms, to tell him it was okay, to make it better like I'd done his whole life. But I stayed seated. You did more than hurt me, Daniel. You erased me. On what should have been one of the happiest days of my life, I sat in my car half a mile away from your wedding and cried because I wasn't allowed to be there. I watched a video of your speech and heard you thank everyone who mattered to you, except the woman who gave you life. Do you have any idea what that felt like? I'm so sorry. I'm not finished. My voice was steady, calm. For months, I blamed myself. I thought I must have been a terrible mother, must have done something unforgivable to deserve that kind of exclusion. I replayed every conversation, every moment, trying to figure out where I went wrong, and it nearly destroyed me. Mom. But then I realized something. I wasn't perfect. I was angry longer than I should have been. I let my pain from the divorce bleed into my relationships with you and Michelle. I wasn't always easy to be around, but none of it justified what you did. Because mothers are human, Daniel. We hurt. We struggle. We make mistakes. And if the price of making mistakes is being completely cut out of our children's lives, then what was the point of any of it? He was sobbing now. You're right. You're absolutely right. And I don't know how to make it up to you. I don't know how to fix this. I'm not sure you can. The words hung in the air between us. What do you mean? I took a deep breath. I mean that I've spent the last 3 months building a new life, finding new people, creating new connections, and I've discovered that I don't need to wait for my children to decide I'm worthy of their time. I don't need to organize my entire existence around being available for people who weren't available for me. So you're done with me, with us. I'm done sacrificing my peace for people who don't value me, even if those people are my children. Mom, please, I know I messed up, I know I hurt you. But you can't just give up on me, on our relationship. I'm your son. And I'm your mother. But you gave up on that relationship when you decided I was too inconvenient to include in your wedding, when you thanked everyone except me in your speech, when you ignored my letter for 3 months. You made your choice, Daniel. Now I'm making mine. Which is what? I'm choosing myself. For the first time in my entire adult life, I'm putting myself first. He stood up, panicking now. What does that mean? Are you saying you don't want to see me anymore? I'm saying that I'm not going to drop everything to fix your marriage or manage your guilt. I'm saying that if you want a relationship with me, it's going to be on my terms. No more putting everyone else's comfort above mine. No more swallowing my feelings to make things easier for you. No more being the flexible one, the understanding one, the one who always accommodates. I'll do anything, Mom, whatever you need. I need time. I need space. I need you to sit with what you did and really understand the weight of it. Not just apologize because you're unhappy and want me to make it better, but actually reckon with the fact that you chose to hurt me to make your life simpler. How long? I don't know, maybe months, maybe years, maybe forever. The forever made him cry harder. You can't mean that. I'm your mother, Daniel, not your emotional support animal, not your backup plan when your perfect new life doesn't work out, not someone you can discard and pick back up at your convenience. I'm a person, with feelings, with dignity, with limits, and you pushed me past mine. I stood up, walked to the door, opened it. I think you should go now. Mom, please. Go, Daniel, go home to your wife, work on your marriage, figure out your life. And when you've actually done the work to understand why what you did was so devastating, maybe we can talk, but not today. He walked to the door, paused. I love you, Mom. I know you do, but love isn't enough when it comes with conditions. When it comes with the expectation that I have to earn it by being perfect, by healing on your timeline, by making myself small enough to fit into your convenient narrative. He left, and I closed the door. And then I sat down and cried. Not the desperate, broken sobs from 3 months ago, but tears of grief and relief and something that felt almost like freedom. Over the next few months, I heard things. Through Michelle, through mutual friends, through the small-town gossip network that connects everyone whether we want it to or not. Daniel's marriage was falling apart. Vanessa's family's controlling behavior had intensified after the wedding. Her mother had moved into their guest room, temporarily, and showed no signs of leaving. Her father was pressuring Daniel to change jobs, to move to a different neighborhood, to join their country club. The perfect, uncomplicated family Daniel had wanted turned out to be a gilded cage. He'd apparently tried to set boundaries. Vanessa had taken her parents' side. Arguments escalated. The honeymoon phase evaporated within weeks. Part of me felt vindicated, part of me felt sad for him, but mostly I felt detached. This was no longer my problem to solve. Michelle tried to pull me in a few times. Mom, he really needs you right now. He's struggling. Then he should call his therapist. You're being cold. I'm being protective of myself. There's a difference. Michelle didn't understand. She was still playing the mediator, still trying to fix everyone, still exhausting herself trying to keep the peace. I recognized the pattern because I'd lived it for years. You know what, sweetheart? I told her during one of these conversations. You're going to burn out trying to manage everyone's feelings. I did it for decades, and all it got me was excluded from my son's wedding. At some point, you have to let people experience the consequences of their own choices. She hung up angry. We didn't talk for 2 weeks. When she finally called back, her voice was different, smaller. You were right. About what? About letting people deal with their own consequences. I've been running myself ragged trying to help Daniel and Vanessa work things out, mediating their arguments, listening to both sides, offering advice. And yesterday, Vanessa told me I was making things worse by enabling Daniel's victim mentality. I'm sorry, honey. I'm the one who should be sorry, to you, for not seeing what you were going through, for expecting you to just get over it, for making your pain about everyone else's comfort. Thank you for saying that. I miss you, Mom. I miss you too, but Michelle, I need you to understand something. I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. I'm not going to go back to being the woman who puts everyone else first and herself last. I can't. I know, and I don't expect you to. I'd like to see you on your terms, whatever that looks like. We started having lunch once a week, just the two of us. No talk of Daniel unless I brought it up. No expectations that I would fix anything. It was nice, different but nice. 6 months after the wedding, Daniel's marriage imploded completely. Vanessa filed for divorce. The reasons were complicated. Her family's interference, Daniel's emotional withdrawal, fundamental incompatibilities they'd ignored while dating. But I heard through Michelle that Daniel had said something during one of their final arguments that broke everything. I gave up my mother for you. and you can't even tell your parents to back off." Vanessa apparently responded, "I never asked you to give up your mother. That was your choice. Don't blame me for your guilt." She was right, of course. Daniel spiraled, lost weight, stopped showing up to work regularly. Michelle was worried he was depressed, clinically, seriously depressed. She begged me to reach out to him. "Mom, I know you're hurt. I know you need space. But he's really not okay. He needs help." "Then he should get help, professional help. He needs his mother. His mother needed him 6 months ago. He made his choice. Are you really going to let him suffer because of pride?" The question stung, because it was designed to. "This isn't about pride, Michelle. This is about recognizing that I can't save him from the consequences of his own actions. He made choices that devastated me, and now he's experiencing devastation. That's not karma. That's not punishment. That's just life teaching him things I couldn't. But you're his mother. And he's an adult who decided I was disposable. I can feel compassion for his pain without taking responsibility for fixing it." But the truth was, it was eating me alive. Every maternal instinct screamed at me to call him, to show up at his apartment, to pull him out of whatever dark hole he'd fallen into. But I knew that if I did that, nothing would change. He would learn that he could hurt me, exclude me, erase me, and I would always come running when he needed me. That there were no real consequences for treating me as less than human. So I didn't call. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done. 8 months after the wedding, I got a call from Patricia, my ex-mother-in-law. "Jane, I need to tell you something." Her voice was shaky, old. She was 81 now, and it showed in the tremor of her words. "What is it, Patricia?" "It's about the wedding, Daniel's wedding." My stomach tightened. "What about it?" "I need you to know that I didn't agree with it, with excluding you. I told Robert it was wrong. I told Daniel it was cruel, but they didn't listen." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because Daniel came to see me yesterday, and he told me something I think you need to know." She paused, gathering strength. "He said that excluding you wasn't really his idea. That Robert pushed for it. That Vanessa's family insisted on it. That between his father telling him you would cause drama and Vanessa's parents saying they wouldn't come if there was family tension." He felt backed into a corner. Rage, hot and immediate, flooded through me. "So he's blaming everyone else now." "No, that's not why I'm telling you this. I'm telling you because Daniel also said that he went along with it because it was easier than standing up for you. That he chose the path of least resistance instead of doing what was right. And that he'll regret that choice for the rest of his life." "Good, he should." "Jane." "No, Patricia, I'm glad he regrets it. I'm glad it's eating him alive. Because maybe, just maybe, he'll think twice before treating the next person who loves him like they're disposable. He's my grandson, and I love him. But you're right, what he did was unforgivable." "Then why are you calling me?" "Because I'm 81 years old, and I've lived long enough to know that unforgiveness is a poison that hurts the person carrying it more than anyone else. I'm not asking you to reconcile with Daniel. I'm not asking you to forgive him. I'm just asking you not to let his mistake destroy the rest of your life." "It won't. I've built a new life. I'm happy now." "Are you?" The question sat heavy between us. "I'm getting there. That's all any of us can do, I suppose." We talked for a few more minutes before hanging up, and I sat with her words. Was I happy, or was I just numb? Was I healing, or was I just hiding? I didn't have answers. A year after the wedding, Daniel showed up at my house again. This time, I didn't let him in immediately. I made him wait on the porch while I decided whether I had the energy for this conversation. When I finally opened the door, he looked different, healthier, like he'd been working on himself. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness," he said before I could speak. "I'm here to tell you that I finally understand what I took from you, and I'm sorry, not because I want you back in my life, though I do, but because you deserve to hear it." I crossed my arms, waited. "I took away your right to celebrate your son's wedding. I took away memories you'll never get back. I took away your place in one of the most important moments of my life. And I did it because I was a coward who prioritized my comfort over your humanity. Yes, you did. And I know sorry isn't enough. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I need you to know that I see it now. I see what I did, and I'm horrified by it. Are you in therapy? Yes, twice a week. Have been for 6 months. Good. We stood in silence for a moment. Michelle said you're doing well, that you've made new friends, that you seem happy. I am, mostly. I'm glad, Mom. You deserve that. I do. More silence. I'm not asking to be part of your life again, he said finally. I just wanted you to know that I've done the work. I've sat with what I did. And I understand if you never want to see me again. I understand if this is it. For the first time since he'd arrived, I felt something crack in my chest. Daniel, I've spent this whole year trying to figure out if I can forgive you. If I should. If forgiveness means letting you back in or just releasing my anger. And I still don't know the answer. You don't have to know. But here's what I do know. I know that I spent 28 years being your mother, and in one decision, you made me feel like all of that meant nothing. Like I was so easy to discard that you didn't even hesitate. Mom. And the worst part is that you were right. About some of it, I was angry. I did hold on to the divorce too tightly. I did make things harder than they needed to be sometimes. But the solution to that wasn't erasing me. It was having a conversation, setting boundaries, asking me to work on it, not just cutting me out like I was a tumor you needed to remove. I know, and I'm sorry. I know you are, but Daniel, sorry doesn't give me back the day I should have had. Sorry doesn't erase the video I watched of you thanking everyone except me. Sorry doesn't heal the wound of being made invisible by my own child. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. So where does that leave us? He asked. I took a deep breath. I don't know, and I need you to be okay with that uncertainty. I need you to accept that I might never fully let you back in, that our relationship might never be what it was, that this might be as good as it gets. I can accept that. Can you? Because I'm not going to spend the rest of my life earning my way back into your good graces. If we rebuild anything, it's going to be because you've proven, not promised, but proven, that you value me, that you see me as a person worthy of respect and consideration. Not just because I'm your mother, but because I'm a human being who deserves to be treated with dignity. I understand. Do you? Because the first time I'm inconvenient again, the first time my feelings make things complicated, I need to know you won't just discard me again. I won't. I promise I won't. Promises are easy, Daniel. Follow through is what matters. He nodded. What do you need from me to prove it? Time, space, consistent effort without expectation of reward. Show up. Keep showing up. Don't just call when you need something or when you're feeling guilty. Call on random Tuesdays just to see how I am. Remember my birthday without Michelle reminding you. Ask about my life, my real life, not just the parts that involve you. I can do that. We'll see. He left shortly after, and I stood in my doorway, watching him drive away, feeling the weight of a year's worth of pain and anger and grief settling into something different. Not forgiveness, not yet. But maybe the possibility of it, someday. 2 years after the wedding, I hosted Thanksgiving at my house. Not for Daniel and Michelle, not for my ex-husband or his wife, not for the family that had made me feel small and dispensable. For the family I'd chosen. Ruth from the community garden came, bringing her famous sweet potato casserole and stories about her latest pottery class mishap. James from art class came, bringing wine and a painting he'd done of my garden. Carol from the grief support group came with her Italy friends, 5 women I'd met through her who'd all experienced different forms of loss and had rebuilt their lives with fierce, joyful determination. Linda and Margaret from book club came, bringing pie and their infectious laughter. My house was full of noise and warmth and genuine affection. People who saw me, who valued me, who showed up not out of obligation or blood relation, but because they wanted to be there. We ate too much, laughed until our stomachs hurt, shared stories and secrets and hopes for the future. And at one point, Carol raised her glass and said, "To Jane, for showing us all what it means to choose yourself, to walk away from people who don't see your worth, to build something beautiful from the ashes." Everyone raised their glasses. To Jane. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Whole. Not healed completely. Not without scars. But whole in a way that didn't depend on my children's approval or my ex-husband's validation or anyone else's opinion of my worth. I was enough, just as I was. Later that evening, after everyone had left and I was cleaning up, my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "Happy Thanksgiving, Mom. Thinking of you today." I stared at it for a long time. 2 years ago, that text would have meant everything. It would have been a lifeline I desperately clung to, proof that I still mattered, that I hadn't been completely erased. Now, it was just words on a screen. I texted back, "Thank you, hope you had a good day." Polite, distant, the tone you'd use with an acquaintance. He responded immediately, "Can I call you tomorrow? I'd like to talk." I thought about it, really thought about it. "Maybe next week. I'm busy this weekend." I wasn't busy, I just wasn't ready, and I was learning that not ready was a complete sentence. Over the next year, I watched from my new, self-constructed distance as my children reckoned with the consequences of their choices. Daniel, now divorced and living alone, struggled with relationships. He'd confessed to Michelle that he had trust issues now, that he kept waiting for people to exclude him the way he'd excluded me. Karma, some might say. Michelle, exhausted from years of emotional labor, had started her own therapy journey and was beginning to set boundaries with everyone, including me. I was proud of her for that, even when those boundaries stung. They both wanted back in. They both wanted the mother who'd been there unconditionally for 28 years. But that mother was gone. In her place was a woman who knew her worth, who understood that love without respect is just manipulation, who refused to settle for crumbs from people who should have offered her the whole feast. Daniel asked to meet for coffee once a month. I said yes, but on my terms. We met on neutral ground. We talked about surface things mostly. He was trying, I could see that. But the depth of trust he'd destroyed would take years to rebuild, if it ever could be. Michelle and I had a better relationship, mostly because she'd done her own work and understood now what she was asking of me before. But neither relationship was what it had been, and it never would be. 3 years after the wedding I wasn't invited to, Daniel got engaged again. To a woman named Sophie, a therapist, ironically, someone who understood trauma and healing and the complexity of family dynamics. When he told me about the engagement, I felt nothing, no pain, no jealousy, no anger. Just a distant curiosity about what would happen next. "I want you at this wedding, Mom," he said during one of our monthly coffee meetings. "Front row, mother of the groom, all of it, if you're willing." I looked at him across the table. He was 31 now, older, wiser, marked by the pain he'd caused and the pain he'd experienced. Why? Because I was wrong about everything, and because I want to do this right. I want to honor you the way I should have the first time. And if I say no? He paled slightly. Then I'd understand, and I'd respect it. Would you cancel the wedding? What? If I said I'd only come if Vanessa wasn't there, or if your father wasn't there, would you exclude them for me? He hesitated, understanding the trap. No, because that would be wrong. The same way it was wrong when I did it to you. Good answer. We sat in silence for a moment. I'll think about it, I finally said. Thank you, that's all I ask. I did think about it, for weeks. I talked to my chosen family about it. Ruth said I should do whatever felt right for me. Carol said forgiveness was important, but so were boundaries. James said some wounds never fully heal, but that doesn't mean you can't find peace with them. I talked to my therapist. Yes, I'd finally gotten one. She asked me what I would regret more, going or not going. I didn't know. The wedding was set for a Sunday in June. Small, intimate, a complete reversal of the first one. 3 days before, I called Daniel. I've made my decision. Okay, his voice was tight with anxiety. I'll come, but on one condition. Anything. I want you to introduce me, in your speech, not as an afterthought, not as a footnote. I want you to acknowledge publicly in front of everyone what you took from me the first time, and I want you to thank me for giving you another chance despite having every reason not to. Silence. That's fair, I can do that. And if you don't, I walk out. Middle of the ceremony, I don't care if it causes a scene. I don't care if it embarrasses you. Those are my terms. I understand, and I'll do it, I promise. We'll see. The day before Daniel's second wedding, I got an unexpected visitor. Robert. I hadn't seen him in person in over 2 years. We'd successfully managed to avoid each other at the few family events I'd attended, Michelle's daughter Emma's birthday parties, brief holiday exchanges. But there he was, standing on my porch looking older than I remembered. Grayer, more tired. Jane, can we talk? I almost said no. Almost closed the door in his face the way I'd wanted to do 1,000 times over the past decade. But curiosity won out. 5 minutes. We sat in my living room, the same room where so much of my pain had lived and eventually transformed. I owe you an apology, he said without preamble. You owe me many apologies. Which one are we talking about? He flinched. Good. The wedding, Daniel's wedding, I pushed for it for excluding you. My hands clenched involuntarily. I know, Patricia told me. Then you know that I told him you'd cause drama, that you couldn't handle being in the same room with Cynthia and me, that it would be easier, cleaner, better for everyone if you just weren't there. Yes, I know all of that. I was wrong. You were cruel. Yes, I was that too. Silence hung between us, heavy with a decade's worth of unspoken truths. Why? I finally asked. Why did you work so hard to erase me from our son's life? Wasn't destroying our marriage enough? Robert's face crumpled slightly. Because every time I saw you, I saw what I'd broken. Every time our kids had to navigate between us, I was reminded of what I'd destroyed. And it was easier to blame you for not moving on than to face what I'd done. So you convinced our son that I was the problem. Yes. You poisoned him against me. Not intentionally, but yes, over time. Little comments, suggestions that you were difficult, implications that you were holding on to anger that you should have let go of. I made you the villain so I didn't have to be. I stood up, walked to the window. My hands were shaking with rage I'd thought I'd processed years ago. Do you have any idea what you took from me? Not just the wedding, but my son's respect, his trust, his belief that I was worth fighting for. I know, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix it, Robert. I know that too. I turned to face him. Why are you here? Why now? Because Daniel asked me to come. He's doing this whole healing thing, making amends, and he asked me to come talk to you, to own my part in what happened. So this is for him, not for me. No, it's for me too, because I've lost something in all of this, Jane, something I didn't even realize I was losing. What's that? My son's respect. I laughed, bitter and sharp. Good, you should lose it, you deserve to lose it. You're right, but let me finish. I crossed my arms, waited. When Daniel's marriage fell apart, he called me, crying, broken, and he said something that's haunted me ever since. He said, I became just like you, Dad. I threw away someone who loved me because it was easier than doing the hard work, and now I understand why Mom never forgave you. Robert's voice cracked. He looked at me with such disappointment, Jane, such disgust, and I realized that in trying to make you the problem, I'd taught our son that people are disposable, that when relationships get hard, you just leave, that loyalty and commitment are conditional. And now he doesn't trust you. No, he doesn't. He's polite, cordial, but the closeness we had, the relationship I worked so hard to build after I left you, it's gone. He sees me clearly now, and he doesn't like what he sees. Karma's a bitch, Robert. It is, but that's not why I'm here. Then why? Because Cynthia left me. The words hit like a slap. What? 2 months ago, she filed for divorce, said she couldn't be married to a man who destroyed his first family and poisoned his children against their mother. Said she'd watched what I did to you, to Daniel, to Michelle, and she couldn't respect me anymore. I sat down slowly. Cynthia left you. Yes. The woman you had an affair with, the woman you destroyed our 23-year marriage for, she left you. Yes. I waited for the satisfaction to come, the vindication, the sense that justice had finally been served. Instead, I just felt tired. I'm sorry, I said, surprising myself. Are you? Yes, not because I think you deserve sympathy, but because I know what it feels like to be left, and it's devastating, even when you know it's coming. Robert looked at me with something like wonder. How can you be kind to me after everything I've done? I'm not being kind to you, I'm being kind to myself. Holding on to hatred for you was poisoning me. Letting it go wasn't for your benefit, it was for mine. For what it's worth, Jane, you were a good wife, a good mother. I destroyed our marriage because of my own weakness, my own selfishness, not because of anything you did or didn't do. I know that now. It took me a long time, but I know. And I'm sorry for the affair, for leaving, for making you the villain in our children's eyes, for pushing Daniel to exclude you, for every single way I've hurt you over the past decade. I'm sorry. I looked at this man I'd spent 23 years married to. This man I'd loved, built a life with, created children with. This man who'd broken me so completely I'd thought I'd never recover. And I realized I didn't feel anything for him anymore. Not love, not hate, not even indifference. He was just a person. A flawed, selfish person who'd made terrible choices and was finally facing the consequences. I accept your apology, Robert, not because it changes anything, not because it fixes the past, but because I'm done carrying the weight of your guilt. That's yours to deal with now. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. Thank you. But understand this, we're not friends, we're not confidants. We are simply two people who share children and a painful history. That's all we'll ever be. I understand. And if you ever try to turn my children against me again, if you ever speak poorly of me, if you ever try to exclude me from their lives, I will make sure they know exactly what kind of man you are. Not from anger, but from truth. Are we clear? Crystal clear. Good, now get out of my house. He stood, moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, Jane, you look happy, genuinely happy, and I'm glad. You deserve that. I know I do. It just took me a while to believe it. After he left, I sat in my living room and cried. Not for him, not for the marriage we'd had, but for the woman I'd been who thought his betrayal defined her worth. That woman was gone, and I didn't miss her. Sunday arrived with perfect weather. Sunny, warm, with a gentle breeze that made everything feel like a movie. I dressed carefully, not in the mother-of-the-groom dress I'd bought 3 years ago for a wedding I never attended. I'd donated that months ago, but in something new, something that made me feel powerful and beautiful and entirely myself. Ruth came with me, as my guest, my support, my chosen family. You've got this, she said as we pulled into the venue. And if you don't, we leave. No guilt, no apologies. Deal. The ceremony was small, maybe 40 people, held in a botanical garden with flowers everywhere and string lights hanging from trees. When I arrived, Daniel saw me immediately. His face transformed, relief and joy and something that looked like redemption. He walked over, Sophie beside him. She was lovely, warm eyes, genuine smile. Mom, you came. I said I would. I know. But I was terrified you'd change your mind. I almost did, several times. Sophie stepped forward, extended her hand. Mrs. Eric, I'm Sophie. I'm so honored to finally meet you. Daniel's told me so much about you. Has he? The truth, she said, her eyes steady on mine. All of it, what he did, what it cost, what he lost. I told him I wouldn't marry him unless he made things right with you or at least tried. I liked her immediately. You're a smart woman. I try to be. Michelle appeared then, Emma in tow. She hugged me tight. Thank you for coming, Mom. Thank you for not making me choose between being here and keeping my dignity. The ceremony began shortly after. I sat in the front row, right side. Ruth beside me, Michelle and Emma on my other side. Robert sat on the left side alone. Cynthia's absence was notable. He looked diminished somehow, smaller. The ceremony was beautiful, simple. Sophie and Daniel exchanged vows they'd written themselves, full of promises about communication and respect, and showing up even when it was hard. And then came the moment I demanded. Daniel took the microphone for his speech. Before I thank everyone for being here today, I need to say something important. 3 years ago, I got married for the first time. It was a beautiful wedding, wonderful people, but someone crucial was missing, someone who should have been at the center of it all. The audience was silent. My mother. He looked directly at me. Mom, 3 years ago, I made the worst decision of my life. I excluded you from my wedding because I was a coward, because I prioritized everyone else's comfort over your dignity, because I convinced myself that you were the problem instead of recognizing that I was. His voice broke slightly. I took from you something you can never get back, the chance to see your son get married, the memories we should have made together, your rightful place at one of the most important moments of my life. And I did it in a way that made you feel disposable, invisible, unworthy. Tears were streaming down his face now. Sophie had her hand on his back. I spent 3 years watching you build a beautiful life without me, watching you choose yourself, watching you surround yourself with people who see your worth. And I realized that I didn't lose you because you were angry or unforgiving or difficult. I lost you because I didn't deserve you. Several people in the audience were crying now too. So today, in front of everyone I love, I want to say, Mom, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for hurting you. I'm sorry for erasing you. I'm sorry for taking so long to understand what I'd done. And I'm grateful, so incredibly grateful, that despite having every reason to never forgive me, you're here today. Thank you for giving me another chance I don't deserve. Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. Thank you for being exactly who you are, even when I tried to make you feel like that wasn't enough. He raised his glass. To my mother, Jane Eric, the strongest woman I know, the mother I didn't appreciate until I'd lost her, the woman who taught me that love without respect is worthless, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who don't value you. Mom, I love you, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving that I've learned from my mistakes. This wedding is as much for you as it is for Sophie and me. Thank you for being here. The audience erupted in applause. People were openly crying. I sat there, tears streaming down my face, feeling something crack open in my chest. Not forgiveness, exactly. Not absolution for what he'd done. But acknowledgement. Public, honest acknowledgement of the pain he'd caused and the work he'd done to understand it. It wasn't everything, but it was something. The reception was lovely. I stayed for most of it, danced with Daniel, talked with Sophie's family, laughed with Ruth and Michelle. At one point, Robert approached me. That took courage, he said, gesturing toward where Daniel was talking with friends. It did. You raised a good man, Jane, despite my best efforts to screw him up. I did, and he's learning to be better than both of us. Yeah, he is. We stood in uncomfortable silence for a moment. Cynthia's really gone, I asked. Yeah, the papers should be final next month. How are you handling it? Honestly, terribly. Turns out being alone with yourself when you've spent decades running from who you are is pretty brutal. Therapy helps. That's what everyone tells me. I start next week. Good, you need it. He nodded. For what it's worth, I am sorry, Jane, for everything. I know, but Robert, sorry doesn't make us friends. It doesn't give you a place in my life beyond being our children's father. You understand that, right? I do. Good. He walked away, and I watched him go. This man who'd once been the center of my universe. This man whose betrayal had nearly destroyed me. And I felt nothing but relief that he was no longer my problem to solve. 6 months after Daniel's second wedding, I was in my garden, the community garden where I'd met Ruth, when my phone rang. Michelle. Mom, I have news. Good news or bad news? Depends on your perspective. Emma got accepted to that gifted program I told you about. Michelle, that's wonderful. It is, but it's 2 afternoons a week, and I don't think I can manage the pickup schedule with work and... You're asking if I can help. Only if you want to. I know you have your art classes and your book club in your life. I'm not trying to. Michelle, breathe. Yes, I can help with Emma. I'd love to. Really? Really, but on one condition. What's that? This doesn't mean I'm back to being the on-call grandmother who drops everything for everyone. I have a life now, plans, commitments, and those matter too. Of course, I wouldn't expect. Good, so we work out a schedule that works for both of us, and if something comes up on my end, you find a backup. Deal. Deal, thank you, Mom. After we hung up, I sat in the garden and smiled. This was what healing looked like, not going back to who I was before, not erasing the pain or pretending it never happened, but building something new, with boundaries, with self-respect, with the understanding that I could love my children and still put myself first. A year after Daniel's second wedding, our family gathered for Thanksgiving again. But this time, it was different. I hosted it at my house, but not just for my blood family. Ruth came, James came, Carol and her Italy friends came, Linda and Margaret came. And yes, Daniel and Sophie came. Michelle and her family came. Robert was not invited. He'd asked through Michelle if he could join. I'd said no. But Mom, it's Thanksgiving. Family should be together. And this is my family, I'd said, gesturing to the crowd of people in my house. Robert made his choices. He dealt with the consequences. He doesn't get a seat at my table just because he's sorry now. Michelle had accepted that. She was learning slowly that boundaries weren't punishments. They were protection. The Thanksgiving dinner was chaos in the best way. Kids running around, adults laughing over wine, food covering every surface. At one point, Daniel stood up with his glass. I want to make a toast. To my mom, who taught me the hardest lesson of my life, that love isn't enough without respect. That family is what you build, not just what you're born into. And that sometimes the most loving thing someone can do is walk away from you until you learn to treat them better. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. Mom, you saved my life by refusing to let me treat you poorly. You showed me what real strength looks like, and I'm grateful every single day that you're stubborn enough to demand what you deserve. I love you. Everyone raised their glasses, to Jane. And I sat there, surrounded by people who saw me, valued me, celebrated me, and thought, this is what I was waiting for, not forgiveness that excused their behavior, not reconciliation that required me to shrink myself, but a life where I was honored, where my presence was appreciated, where I wasn't asking permission to take up space. This was the life I'd built from the ashes of being erased. And it was beautiful. 5 years after the wedding I wasn't invited to, I stood in an art gallery looking at a painting I'd created. It was abstract, swirls of blues and grays and eventually bright yellows and golds. James had titled it, The Erosion and Emergence of Self. It's about transformation, I explained to a stranger who'd stopped to look at it. About being broken down to nothing and then choosing to rebuild yourself into something new. It's stunning, she said. Did something specific inspire it? My son got married and didn't invite me. Her eyes widened. I'm so sorry. Don't be. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. She looked confused. It forced me to stop waiting for other people to decide I was worthy. It forced me to build a life that didn't revolve around people who didn't value me. It forced me to discover that I was enough, just as I was, without anyone's validation. That's incredible. It is, and it only happened because I was willing to walk away, to let relationships die rather than shrink myself to keep them alive. She She nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. I think I needed to hear that. A lot of us do. Daniel and Sophie are still married. Happy, from what I can tell. They have a daughter now, my granddaughter Lily, who I see regularly but on my terms. Daniel calls every week, shows up to my art exhibitions, remembers my birthday without reminders. He's proven, slowly and consistently, that he's learned from his mistakes. Our relationship isn't what it was. It never will be. But it's something new, something built on mutual respect instead of obligation. Michelle and I have coffee every week. She's still my daughter, still someone I love deeply. But she's also learned to carry her own emotional weight instead of asking me to manage everyone's feelings. Robert lives alone now, sees the kids occasionally. We're civil when we must interact, but nothing more. His choices cost him everything, his second wife, his children's respect, his sense of self. I don't feel sorry for him. Actions have consequences. As for me, I'm 58 now. I paint. I garden. I travel with my chosen family. I write in my journal every morning. I go to therapy every week. I volunteer at a women's shelter, helping other women understand that their worth doesn't depend on being chosen by people who should have chosen them from the beginning. I'm happy, truly, genuinely happy. Not because everything worked out the way I wanted, but because I stopped waiting for other people to write my story. I picked up the pen myself, and the story I'm writing now. It's beautiful. If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for witnessing my story, for sitting with me in the pain and the healing and the transformation. I need you to do something now. I need you to hit that subscribe button. Not for me, though I appreciate it, but for yourself. Because if my story resonated with you, if you saw yourself in any part of it, then you need to remember this. You are worthy of respect, of dignity, of being celebrated, not tolerated. And if the people in your life, even family, even your own children, can't see that, you have permission to walk away, to build something new, to choose yourself. Subscribe to this channel if you believe that. If you believe that mothers, daughters, women, people, all of us, deserve to be valued for exactly who we are. Comment below where you're watching from and tell me, have you ever had to choose yourself over family? How did it change you? Your story matters. Your voice matters. You matter. Now let's talk about what this story teaches us. Here's what I learned through all of this, and what I hope you'll take with you. Forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. You can forgive someone for your own peace while still maintaining distance for your own protection. Forgiveness is about releasing the poison of hatred, not about giving someone access to hurt you again. Family is what you build, not just what you're born into. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, respect, or love. Sometimes the family that sees you, values you, and celebrates you is the one you choose for yourself. Your pain doesn't have a timeline. If someone tells you that you should be over it by now, that's their discomfort with your healing process, not a reflection of what you should feel. Grief, betrayal, hurt, they all heal on their own schedule. Honor that. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. When you set a boundary, you're not being mean. You're protecting your peace, your dignity, your mental health, and anyone who punishes you for that doesn't deserve access to you. Being erased doesn't mean you disappear. When people exclude you, ignore you, or try to make you invisible, it says everything about them and nothing about your worth. You exist. You matter, whether they acknowledge it or not. Sometimes walking away is the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and for them. By refusing to accept poor treatment, you teach people how to love you properly. And if they can't learn, that's not your failure, it's their loss. Rebuilding takes time, but it's worth it. Creating a new life after devastation is hard. It's painful. It's uncertain. But on the other side of that work is a version of you that's stronger, clearer, more authentic than you've ever been. You don't have to forgive to move forward. Despite what people tell you, you can build a beautiful life while still holding space for the hurt someone caused. Healing doesn't require you to absolve people of what they did. It requires you to refuse to let what they did define who you are. If you're going through something similar, if you've been excluded, erased, or made to feel disposable by people who should have protected you, please hear this. It's not your fault. You deserve better. And you have permission to walk away. Find your Ruth, your James, your Carol. Find the people who see you and stay. Build your life around them instead of the people who make you feel small. And when those who hurt you come back, because they often do, you get to decide if they've earned their way back in. You get to set the terms. You get to protect your peace. That's not revenge. That's not punishment. That's dignity. Thank you for listening to my story. If it helped you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, you are worthy. You are enough. You deserve to be celebrated, not tolerated. Now go build the life you deserve. The end.